Well, hello. How are you?
Hi, Lonnie. Great to see you.
Great to see you. So, why don't you tell our listeners who you are, a little about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm happy to be here. I have considered myself a runner for most of my life, and it's really brought me a lot of stress relief. And I love being outdoors and kind of letting my mind wander. And I started experiencing some symptoms in my hamstring, and which really caused me to kind of scale back and eventually stop running. And so my main goal was sort of like return to sport because it was important to me. I learned a lot through the process, but yeah, I'm excited to tell you my story.
Great. So, we started well, we were just talking about it before we started recording, but pandemic time, no, mid-pandemic time, with 2021 probably. Um, and that was you had been running, you had started to back to run a little bit, or you weren't running at all when you started with us. I forget.
No, I tried to return back to running. So I was diagnosed with high hamstring tendonitis, tendinopathy by an orthopedic doctor and was told, you need to stop running and was prescribed some traditional PT, which was like mostly rest, like do some walking, some very light exercises for a period of time, and then oh, you should be good to go and you can return to running, which was an absolute disaster. Um, because in that time, obviously, I didn't run for 6 to 8 weeks, and I wasn't even doing the strength training I was doing even before the injury. So when I tried to go back to running, um, it was the pain that I had originally, and even then some. Um, so that was super frustrating. And I started doing a lot of research and started researching other runners that have gone through this and tried some other solutions and tried acupuncture and massage. And I started learning about different approaches and practices of building strength. And that's what led me to finding you.
And I assume well, there was a lot of frustration. There still is frustration, but I assume one of the biggest frustrations was the fact that you couldn't do what you really wanted to do. And given the fact you already mentioned that it was a stress reliever, I can only
Yeah.
imagine what it was like. I don't actually remember what it was like prior to you actually running regularly, because you've been running regularly for a long time, but I can assume you were quite
Yeah.
frustrated.
You could probably ask my family and they might tell you otherwise and probably make a snide remark about, oh, mom hasn't gone running today or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Because in
day-to-day
addition to
life,
exercise, I used it as a stress relief and a way to just have my own time.
right. So to not be able to do that was obviously quite frustrating.
Well, yeah, and following the advice of, a doctor and, another therapist that and you know me well enough, right? I follow directions like to the letter. So when I follow the directions and then I'm really in a worse off situation, that was super frustrating.
And I want to just make a comment on the idea that you were originally told to rest and you rested for 6 to 8 weeks, which put you back. So I think one of the big things I want to highlight, and that's one of the things, as you know, you've been working with us for long enough that that's not the best way to approach things. And so thinking about that, like what would you tell people that were told to rest when you have something like a tendinopathy, which is for the people listening, if you don't know what that is, it's just a condition of a tendon. You have tendons in your body and they don't like rest, but we used to think that they did. But anyway, for someone who's been told that, what would you say to them?
Well, I would tell you, unless this might sound extreme, but unless like you were told you have a broken bone and like you're going to cause irreparable damage, I would seek advice and scale back versus just like stopping altogether. Because stopping altogether, it's like you had the inefficiency of whatever injury was plaguing you, and then you stopped. So imagine everyone's been at a point in their life where they don't work out for a period of time, and then you try to do it again, and it's like so hard. So injury plus trying to come back, it's just going to make it more difficult for your body to heal and to adjust, and you more frustrated because you want to get back to doing what you want to do.
Right. So what was different about what we did?
Well, first of all, I've learned so much in this process, and I learned about how to really strengthen the muscles and the tendons that are really required for running, and also um, kind of the supporting muscles. So my hamstring was my main issue, and obviously, like, we needed to strengthen that, but we also needed to strengthen other muscles around it that would help support it and not have so much reliance on my hamstring. So we did a lot of glute work, um, some core work, some hip work, and even strengthening my calves. So all of those other surrounding muscles could contribute to my running and not have so much emphasis only on my hamstrings, and be able to give them, I don't want to call it a rest, but like the support that they needed.
And well, you've been running for so long, but we got you running pretty quickly again, but not in a manner of, go out and run 3 miles. But
Right.
running was key as well.
Yes. We started back with, doing walk run combos that probably went on for longer than I would have liked, but we increased we increased the duration, and I had to be honest with myself too. If I pushed myself, I could feel increased pain or inability to do what I wanted to do. So I started to recognize when I needed to scale back versus pushing through. And you helped understand like what was sort of a normal cycle if I did strength training and I was sore, and recovered versus like, okay, I'm really sore and now I'm feeling it for several days. That's a red flag.
hmm And um, I with the one of the things with a hamstring tendon issue, it's probably one of my least favorite things to treat because it takes so long. So, were you expecting the length of time it required to take to treat this issue to get to the point where you are now?
Like, yes and no. I probably didn't expect, I think I expected initially like a traditional PT cycle where like you go somewhere for 6 to 8 weeks and you're like, okay, you're good, goodbye. And you don't really see them again.
Yeah.
Um, this is now sort of a lifelong journey, but I'm also aging in the process. And so I need to maintain strength and build strength and continue to make sure that the tendon is strong enough.
Yes, and that's the hard part about tendon issues is no matter what, like long term, it's going to take a long time to like formally make it go away, but then like keep it gone and then be able to maintain that capacity over the course of time. And then things pop up and then you have to address a shoulder and then a
You
neck.
have flare-ups and other things that just happen along the way in life.
Right.
But it has helped. But through this process, though, it's helped me when other things do pop up, to be able to address them and to sort of know what to do versus like, oh, I do have a shoulder pain. I should just stop doing anything that requires shoulder strength. Well, knowing what I know that's not the answer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And that is one of the things that it differentiates, at least what I've noticed over the past, let's say, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since I've started seeing people longer. There's so many people are like, you see people for, you've seen people for years. Don't you make people better? I'm like, yeah, but this is like rehab coaching. Does it necessarily mean I have to see someone, every week? No, it doesn't mean that. But you're in that category that I've seen, and like, every 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, depending on variety of things, that frequency. And so that has allowed us to uh, or allowed me to coach you along this process of things flaring up and popping up. And in my opinion, has better managed it if unless you compared to you being on your own. Although I think we took a break for like 2 months once.
Yes. Um, well, speaking of that, I think having the ability to communicate with you in the app and the way that you prescribe the exercises, um, is super beneficial because in a typical PT practice or when you're in a program, you might see someone once a week or every other week. And within that time frame, you don't get a chance to give any feedback. You don't know how it's going. But with your program, you have your program and you can provide feedback and make adjustments. So if something doesn't go right, within the course of the week or two that I'm not seeing you, I can make adjustments, and so I'm not setting myself back. So that was really like a big game changer. And like we talked about my frustration earlier, being able to express how it's going and sometimes vent at times, and having Lonnie be able to talk me off a ledge and tell me that either something's normal, part of the process, or here's how we're going to adjust was really helpful.
I was actually speaking with my other therapist earlier today about how thankful we are for the people that do trust us. And it does take time for someone to trust a therapist or someone giving advice, but it just makes everything so much easier because we do know how it works and we know what's going to happen. At least we can anticipate things. And of course, things come up and not everything works. But for us to come together and you collaborate with me and vice versa, of how we proceed as things pop up and we work together to get to that point of improving things, it just makes life so much easier. And I agree, the app, if I didn't have the app, I don't know what I would do. We'd be using a spreadsheet or emailing, or I don't even know what we would do. The app is
Yeah, or
definitely,
maybe not even keep in touch like
or
other, like,
that.
traditional therapy is like, I'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
That's very true. Yeah, I used to do that. I don't know how I made people better. People still got better though, but it was different. So, um, so I think in closing, what would you give general advice for people who either are on the fence about physical therapy in general or on the fence about working with us? Like, what advice would you give them to get them to be successful in rehabbing their injury?
Well, first I wouldn't accept anyone that told you like you can't do something anymore. I mean, if you've always loved doing something, obviously seek an alternative opinion. I sought many different opinions and different like healing practices, like I said, acupuncture and shockwave. And so definitely do your research and don't accept like you need to stop doing what you're doing. Um, I would also say that you really need to build a program, like particularly as we age. And even if we don't, when I think back, like what I know now, I wish I had known that like 20 years ago and how much stronger I would have been able to maintain my body to keep doing the things that I love. And that's what really makes this practice and program unique. And I just talked about the uniqueness of the programming and the app and building a trusted support system with you. And now I really understand. Like I said, if something flares up, I kind of know what to do. So it's really, I'm not saying that traditional approaches are totally wrong for everybody, but um, I think I understand much better about how to manage symptoms, how to strengthen other muscles in your body to help support muscles that might be weaker or going through like an injury. And that's really been a game changer.
That's great. I appreciate you saying all that because that's pretty much the our mission is to not only help people but educate them because we can't guarantee you're not going to be in pain again. I can't tell you go through my 8 week program or an 8 week like set of physical therapy visits and say you're going to be good to go. No matter what the issue is, it's always the likelihood of recurrence is so high once you've had it once before. So if you can catch on to the lingo, absorb the education and take it with you and then be able to apply it and repeat it over and over again, you're going to be so much better. And that is purely why we do what we do for how long we do it with people, because we want to teach them how to manage things long term. and keep people moving. I mean, well into their 60s and 70s, right?
Yeah.
Or plus.
I
So,
can't imagine a world without you in it, Lonnie.
Julie, same for you. Well, thank you for coming on. I think we'll end it there. All right.
All right. Thank you, Lonnie.
Good thing. Thank you.